Hello, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. Welcome to our day 6 of our Healing 101 series. And today we will be talking about 4 practical ways of how to discern, like 4 practical discernment techniques. And this is the part 2 of last week's video training, where I was talking about the art of discernment. So if you haven't watched part 1, just go ahead and watch part 1 so that part 2 can make sense. Today will be really like practical. How do we, like, some practical tips, takes more technique of how to go about a discernment. Okay, so also you'll see I've got a different background today. I'll be having a different background for around the 3 coming weeks. So yeah, and then all mine is over there, so you'll see me looking like the other way today. Sorry about that. Let's go. So 4 practical discernment techniques. The first one will be pretty easy, simple. So you've got a decision to make. So you start with thinking about the decision. So putting it in front of your mind and on your mind. And now you decide, okay, let's take an example. Should I marry Jeff or Jerome? Okay, let's go with that. So I've got this decision on my mind. And then when the decision is on your mind, you think about, you start to pray for the grace to be, Ignatius of Loyola says this, like to be like a balance in equilibrium. You know, when a balance is in equilibrium, it's like both of them are like level. And you ask for that grace. You ask God to have the grace to, the 2 choices that you have to be able to be really, and Ignatius calls it indifference, like to be indifferent to either it's going to be Jerome, either it's going to be Jeff. You just like in the middle, really in balance, and like if God says it's Jerome, okay, it's Jerome. If God says it's Jeff, it's Jeff. It's not like, my heart has a little thing for Jeff, so I'm like trying to make all the elements of the discernment go towards Jeff, but like really ask for that grace, so that let me be really that balance, so that any of the decision, I'm like, okay, it's not gonna be me, it's gonna be your will. Whichever you lead me to, it's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna try to pull the discernment in any other way. That's the first technique that you can do. This can really help in leveling things up and you seeing more where God is leading you. And then after this, you pray that God will enlighten you and really guide you, so that you'll be able to do whatever God is showing you to, and that He gives you the grace. Perhaps you've got already a little something for Jeff, and in your discernment you feel that it's gonna be Jerome, and you're like, I don't know about that. But like, ask for the grace to be able to do God's will, because sometimes it's not really easy to do God's will. We prefer to do our own. So that's the first technique that you can do, pretty easy. The second one would be, you imagine the decision that you need to make. You imagine a third person, somebody that you don't know anything about, a complete stranger, has the same exact problem, issue, decision that they have to take. So we'll keep with our example of Jeff and Jerome. So you meet somebody, a woman comes to you, you don't know her from anywhere, you don't know who Jerome is, you don't know who Jeff is. The woman comes with all the elements that you already have on these people, and you imagine that a woman comes and tell you all the story of what's happening, what would you tell her? What would you advise her? As a complete stranger, stepping back, looking into the story of what's happening, of the decision, what will you tell this person? Something will come, like you say, like, okay, perhaps you should consider Jeff because Jerome has this and this and this, and perhaps it's not enough for you to marry him but Jeff presents this and this. And whatever decision you will come up with, this is where you go. Why? Because when we invested into something, we've got all our emotions invested in it, and all our reasoning and in emotions, everything is like all over the place. And when we're looking at it, like, because we're in that situation, it's very difficult to get out of it and see it like with a fresh eyes. So doing this exercise really helps you to see things from a really outside perspective, and it helps. So whatever advice that you would give this specific person on that specific decision that you're trying to make, this is gonna be it, and you go with that. Okay, and then we also, I don't know if you've noticed, but like, we're also really good at advising people. Somebody comes to us in our normal day-to-day life and they will say like, oh, I need to do this. Yeah, you should do this, perhaps consider this. It's very easy for us to give advice to other people. But when it's our case, it's really hard. We can't think about it. We can't think properly. We've got our mind all foggy. But this is because we're not involved and our emotions are not involved. Our flesh are not involved. And this exercise really helps to put us into that perspective and see the situation and the decision from a distance, which really helps clear our mind so that we can come up with a decision that's really more aligned, if that makes sense. So that's the second technique. The third technique would be, we call it the deathbed technique. So you consider your decision, the decision that you're making, and you think of yourself gray and old, like at 80 or 90 years old, on your deathbed. You've lived a long life, you've had lots of things happen to your life. Now it's you're on your deathbed and you're going to pass on to the Father. And you're there, you see, like, you close your eyes, you visualize yourself on your deathbed, wherever it's gonna be. It's your imagination. You're gonna make your imagination work. You're on your deathbed and you try to see all the details that you can see. You try to feel all the feelings that you can feel, and you see. And then you, being there, you think about like, okay, I'm there, and like 50 years, whatever, ago, I've decided to choose to marry Jerome. And now I'm looking back on my life. I'm 90, I'm dying, I'm on my deathbed. What has my life looked like being married to Jerome, picking him, at least choosing him? I'll give you an example. Perhaps Jerome, in all his everything that he wants or he doesn't want, Jerome perhaps didn't want kids. While I was like trying to make that decision if I'm gonna pick him or not, he didn't want kids. He was great. He had lots of great stuff, but he didn't want kids. And then I'm here on my deathbed, looking back on everything. I've married Jerome. Jerome is not there because he died before me. I'm there, and wow, he didn't want kids, so we didn't have any, and I'm alone. I don't have any family. I don't have kids. I don't have grandkids. I'm alone. I'm perhaps I see myself in aged care with strangers taking care of me, and this is like my life. That's an example, and it will come to you don't worry, try this when you have another day, like a big decision to make. It's really helpful, and you'll really be surprised how things gonna pop up. God will put things in your mind and you'll be like, wow, I didn't know I was that good at imagining things. And then you see your life, okay, and you'll see, okay, all this would be my life, and perhaps it will make like, okay, no, perhaps I shouldn't be picking, I don't know which one I picked. Like, was it Jerome or Jeff? I don't know, Jerome. I shouldn't have picked him. And when you do the same thing for the other option that you're having, okay, like, I need Jerome. Okay, did I pick Jerome? Okay, Jerome really wanted kids. He didn't have the six-pack. He didn't have the six figures. He didn't have all that thing, but he wanted a family. He wanted something nice and easy, simple family life, going out, doing life together. That's what he wanted. Now you're there on your deathbed, looking back. Jerome is not here. He's dead before you. But it's different. You see this, you've got kids, lots of kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids are here holding your hands, helping you around. You're in your house, in your own bed, and you're dying peacefully, happily. Having people around you, and it's like, oh wow, okay, that's two different images that I'm seeing here. And then this can help you out. Okay, yeah, it's definitely not gonna be Jeff that I'm gonna be picking. This is how I see myself, my life unfolding, so it's gonna be Jerome instead of Jeff. So you get the gist, right? That's another technique that you can use, the deathbed technique. And this is a really powerful one. Believe me, have my word on this. I've tried it a lot of time and it works amazing. And I've tried it on lots of clients. They used it and it was perfect. So try this. This is really, really a good one. The deathbed technique works every time. Number 4, another one, the last one will be, where is it? So if you're still not experiencing any clarity on the decision, what to do, the correct decision to make, you try to use your imagination before, you use your spirituality before by praying, and then you use your imagination with the deathbed experience. Now you use your reason, like your mind. We're gonna try. See, this is the good thing about these techniques. Like you use all the different parts of what makes you a human being, like your body, your mind, and your spirit. So right now, this technique is about using your mind and your rational thinking, your reason. So what you do is that you think about the decision. So should I marry Jerome? Should I marry Jeff? And you think about it, and then you start to, you start to weigh the pros and the cons. You start to weigh the pros and the cons, and you think about, like, okay, should I marry Jeff? Should I marry Jerome? What are the motives that pushes me towards one and not the other? So what you do, you take a piece of paper and you fold it in two. You don't have a piece of paper. I don't, but I'm gonna take that as a reference. So you take a piece of paper, you fold it in two, okay? Right? So let's say that it's folded in two, and then you fold this part in two again, right? And this part in two. So now you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of grid so that you can write in. Now what you do, on the top you write, okay, the decision that you're going for, which is, which one should I pick, Jeff or Jerome? That's the big thing. Half of the other page, you write like the decision for going for Jeff, and half of the other, the decision for going for Jerome. And we've divided it again in another little section. So 1, the reason for going for Jeff, advantages, disadvantages. Reason for going for reason going against, advantages, disadvantages. So you do this and you write, for example, okay, Jerome has the six pack. He has the he's 6 foot tall. However, he doesn't earn the six figures yet, so he's like disadvantages. He's not there yet in the six figures. His relationship with God is pretty. Not sure about that. If he does have a pretty good relationship with God, it's pretty important for me. So I put this here in the disadvantages. Good thing about Jerome, he's like he's very funny. I really like somebody who has a good sense of humor. So you put all this. Reason for and against Jeff. Jeff is like he doesn't have the six pack. He's a bit on the side, if you know what I mean. But he's pretty hard worker, and he's working towards the six figures. Not there yet, but he's working towards the six figures. He's got things going on. He's got businesses, and he's got stuff, and he's very ambitious, and he's very caring. He really respects me. He treats me in a really nice way. However, he's like a bit awkward. He's not very funny. And, like you put all the pros, advantages and disadvantages, for, reason against. And after doing this, you'll have your list on a whole page, and you'll see something will, like some patterns and some stuff will pop up depending on what happened. You'll see, and you weigh down all the motives. Sometimes we will see that, for example, the six feet, even earning six figures, 6 foot tall, six pack, they are really, they are not elements that will weigh really heavy on the scale. There could be a long list of 4, but the elements in there would be really petty ones, not really deep, compared to, for example, all the disadvantages would be like really weighty matters. He doesn't have a relationship with God. He treats me really poorly. He's like really, we're not sure if he can be trusted. Like these ones weigh more in a discernment like this, choosing a life partner, compared to having six figures, having a six pack, and being 6 foot tall, right? You know what I mean? So you'll see what's gonna pop up by what you've written, what's weighing heavier on your scale, what's looks pretty weird and not balanced. So by the look of what's going on, the decision will emerge from there. You can make your decision at least based on these factors and facts that you're collecting and seeing from that grid. I'll try to see if I can find this grid, like a really nice thing. Make a grid and put it down there in the comment section or somewhere up there, so that you can have a look and work on it. Perhaps in the video it will be a bit, you're not sure how to get that right, the grid. I'll make a grid for you and put it there so that you can use it. And from the data and the facts that you've written down, the solution will be somewhere in there. And you just have to pick it and make sure that, you go with that. Something else I wanted to add. Now, that's our 4 discernment techniques. That's really all good. Now, what I want to say is that after doing all of the techniques, or you did one and you've got your answer, whatever, you need to bring that answer that you had to God. After doing whichever technique that you chose, bring that to God. Very important to bring it to God, because He will help you come to terms with it. He will bring light to it, especially you bringing it to Him for confirmation, because we flawed, and still, even while doing any one of those techniques, if we don't have that indifference that I was talking about, the being balanced, we can still drag the discernment in our favor in what we really want. You know what I mean? Like in what we really want, in what we are more prone to go towards. So it can be a little bit tricky. So go back to God and ask for confirmation. Really, really important to have a confirmation. And when I say confirmation, it's not like, okay, I want to, is it Jeff or is it Jerome? Discernment said Jerome. And then I said, like, okay, God, I want to give me a sign. If it's Jerome, tomorrow morning, we both be wearing like 2 red tops. And then Jerome comes up and he's wearing a red top. Sis, no. This is not a strong enough sign or confirmation for you to base your whole life on. Listen, it's not going to work. Also, because, why? Because you work at Macca's, right? McDonald's. Everybody wears red. So, of course, Jerome gonna turn up because he works with you. He gonna turn up wearing a red top. You gonna turn up wearing a red top. So, it's not enough. You can't be going on little stuff like this, signs like this. You need a confirmation. And when I mean confirmation, it's a word from God. The strongest confirmation that you can have for a discernment is a word from God. A word literally from the word. You can have a evil like word or whatever, how you're gonna find it, but it needs to a word that's coming from the scriptures. This, you know, you can't wing it. If you got a word, you're gonna go for that. You're sure that it's gonna stand. And why is this important? This is important because the moment you decide, whatever decision you're making, you decided and you got a word from God, the moment things gonna start to be difficult, things gonna start to be sour, because life is life. Life will be lifing, believe me. Any decision we make, it's gonna be like this. There will be ups and downs. And the thing is, if you don't have if the only sign that you had to marry Jerome was that he was wearing a red top the next day, you know what's gonna happen? When you'll be married and, I don't know, money will be tight. Jerome lost his job and you literally like broke. And you're starting to be like on top of each other. You're like, oh my God, you're fighting and you're saying like, oh my God, why did I pick Jerome? Like, why? You're gonna question that decision. I think I made a mistake. I think I shouldn't have gone for him. I should have gone for Jeff. I knew it. He was the one who had the 6 figures. All these things will be coming at you. If you don't have that word from God to stand on when the storm's gonna hit your boat, you won't be able to stick with it. This is why it's important to have a confirmation, and a strong confirmation, and one that comes from scriptures, a real word from God that you can hold on to when the storm gonna come, because the storm gonna come for sure. You can't wing that one too. It's coming. So you need to be sure, and it's not applicable just for picking a partner or whatever. Any decisions that you make. Let me give you an example of my own, perhaps. Yeah. When I decided to do my Masters of Spiritual Direction here in Australia, this was not the most, traveled path here for me to take. And everybody was saying like, no, you should do this and that and da. Not spiritual direction, because long story, I won't be going there, but for obvious reason, I shouldn't be doing this. However, when discerning, God said, this is what I want you to study, spiritual direction, and not what everybody else is saying, is telling you, and what feels right, what feels okay, what feels legally okay and good for you. I'm telling you, you go for spiritual direction. And I was like, okay, fine. And then give me a confirmation. What's the word? Give me a word. And the word that he gave, because one of my biggest problem about that was the financial aspect of it, of that decision, because a master's here in Australia costs a lot of money. And at that time, I didn't have that money. And he said like, yeah, you go for it. And it's like, God, but I don't have the money to pay for this thing. And he said, like, you go for it. I'm going to provide. I'm Jehovah Jireh. I'm going to provide. And he gave me a word. He said, like, you see the sparrows and the lilies of the field? They don't do anything. They don't work. They don't toil. They don't do anything. And still I provide for them. And don't you think that you're my daughter. You're the favored daughter of the king. I love you more than that. How do you think I won't provide for you? So this is the scriptures that I got, like the lilies of the field, and look at the sparrows, look at the lilies of the field. They don't do all these things. They don't work, but still I provide for them. So I'm going to provide for you. You don't have to worry about tomorrow. You don't have to worry what you're going to wear. You don't have to worry what you're going to drink and eat. I'm going to make it happen. And that was the word. I ran with it. When I tell you I ran with it, I ran with it. People were telling me I'm crazy to do this. This is not good. How are you going to do this? How are you going to manage? You won't have the money. Da, 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 da. But because I had that word and I was anchored in that word, I ran with it against everybody. There's not one person. And when I'm telling this, including my spiritual director, including my priest friend, including everybody, was telling me, no, don't do this. This is not the right decision. But I know that I knew I had a word from God, and this was it. This was I discerned, and I had a confirmation, and this was the word, and I ran with it. I decided to go with what God was telling me. And he showed up all the way through these 2 years of study. He showed up each and every day. He showed up as the provider. He provided for literally everything. Wasn't easy, pretty hard actually, but like he was there in this hardship and making things happen in miraculous ways. And in, I don't know, 4 weeks, I'm going to be finishing my Masters of Spiritual Direction. I made it. I survived. I didn't die. He made it happen. And when in the middle of these 2 years, there was lots of things happening and it was not easy. And I was doubting my decisions. I'm like, did I make the right choice? Did I hear that thing right? Did I discern right? Like there was lots of things coming at me back to back, one after the other. And I was like doubting that choice. And the enemy was putting like doubts in my head. But because I had this word, I went back to that word. I was like, no. I had a word from God, and this was the word, and I clung to that word through all my struggle. And yes, and I'm finishing, and I didn't die, and he made it happen. So this is why having a strong confirmation from the scriptures, from the word of God, for any of our discernment is really important, because when things gonna be a bit weird, you need to have something stronger than yourself and the red t-shirt to hold on to. Yeah, that was a long explanation. So yeah, that's it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for today. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Have a lovely day, evening, afternoon. Don't know what time is it at yours. See you soon. Bye-bye.